So before we get into this video, just a quick poke about our GoFundMe. Due to jobs constantly ghosting me, earning the funds to actually try to help us get moved out of Wisconsin and just survive has been really difficult. We've got the GoFundMe link down in the description. There's a few more details down there. So if you could donate or share it around, that would be massively appreciated. Now on to the video. Hey stars, Tiv here, and like with the Dinobot review where I covered the differences between the current Kingdom version of Dinobot to one of his forms that wasn't graced with an update, I'm here to do it again but with Airazors. But as a bit of a twist, and to make this a slightly romance-flavored episode, I had the thought, well, when else am I going to cover Tigatrons? So that's what we're doing here today. But before we get into the toys, a tidbit of a history lesson. Now, the first toy that would become an Airazor was actually developed without a gender in mind. But Bob Forward and Larry DiTilio had insisted on a stronger female presence in the show, and they requested it just in time for the character bios to reflect this. Now, whether it be due to outdated material from Hasbro or simply not believing girl characters would sell, when Beast Wars was dubbed in Japan, Takara made Airazor into a male character, and they really tried their hardest to reframe the relationship with Tigatron as one between a samurai and their client. But once they got towards the episode Other Visits, it had become outright impossible to keep that framing up. And as such, the first gay couple in Transformers fiction was born. I like to think the Airazor in the Japanese G1 universe, as a consequence, to be a femboy. And if I were in charge of writing a new Beast Wars continuity with influences from both sides of the sea, I think I'd establish Airazor as joining the same club as Acid Storm and I. Now, the story does shift a little bit when we get into the history of her Transmetal toy. Given her status as a girl in the West, the Transmetal figure actually ended up being our first released Transformers toy that was designed to be a girl from the start. And that's pretty worth celebrating. Now, when it comes to Tigatron's history and comparison, back in the 90s, they figured it'd be fine to just recolor a cheetah to tiger colors and call it a day. And truth be told, that did work for a bit. Kingdom tried to amend this later, to mixed results as we'll end up seeing. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road and start talking about these toys. We'll talk about the Tigatrons first because really I don't have much to say on them other than a super quick bit of complaining. So to address the elephant in the room, but no, not that one. Anyway, to address the elephant in the room, yeesh, these tigers have really yellowed horrendously in just 3 years. Hell, up until fairly recently, I'd even been keeping them in storage. But not even the orange one was safe from damage. Now, I couldn't find the standard Tigatron's tail whip before recording, so there's that. Aesthetically, it'd be basically impossible to see these two as cheetahs in comparison to their predecessor Cheetor remold. But those positive aesthetic points really do get just wrecked when you consider just how much the yellowing has damaged these guys. And while it could be a quality control issue or something similar, I know for a fact that I'm not the only one who's had this issue with these guys. And comparing other figures in my collection with similar white plastics, it's like night and day. When it comes to Tigatron's posability in cat mode, it's extremely nerfed in comparison to the likes of Ravage and Cheetor. While it shares a good deal of the engineering with them, the legs are a lot more stiff, and there's outright no neck movement at all due to the way the transformation was engineered. And despite including the gut gun, I feel like I'd have preferred it not come with it if it was just going to store on the surface of the belly. Transformation really is simple enough. The aesthetic of the robot modes really would be top-notch if it wasn't for, again, the massive amount of photo degradation, especially on the joint parts. However, the posability, it's alright. Not quite as good as Cheetor in the head area, and a bit stiffer all around, but it's serviceable. Overall, though, Kingdom Tigatron, whether classic or mutant, is a less posable, oversized, and enormously prone to yellowing version of the Cheetor/Ravage from Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom, and I cannot recommend getting him. Steer away from him as much as you can. Seriously, just don't, unless the Beast Wars Again packs Takara has been putting out can remedy the yellowing issues. Now on to these two's better halves. Starting with the older of the two figures, Transmetal Airazor. Now aesthetically, I love how she looks. The bright yellows and reds give her a certain Phoenix vibe, which is fitting considering this is a version of her that would have been reborn in the flames of the Transwarp Way. Now the head sculpt in bird mode isn't as posable or good as it might otherwise be, but it is solid nonetheless. I also just really love the cyborg vibe that she gives off, a bit more than the other Transmetal ones. Though she does also very much kind of look more jet than bird in this form too, like one of those weird aeromorphs. Transformation is pretty easy too. Now, it was fun and intuitive, some shifting in ways I wouldn't have expected, but all in all it results in a pretty badass looking robot. It carries over the cyborg vibes of the previous form, but with the robot head sculpt revealed. It adds even more of a Phoenix vibe, making the yellows and reds the focus of this one. The more feathered looking head sculpt also feels like it has influences, well no, it looks like it's influenced the likes of Rise of the Beast Airazor. Not that we really got to see her in robot mode in that film. The turbines in this mode are really angled in a way that gives her the vibe of being able to fly in either form, a feat that most seekers in robot form fall a bit short on. Her bird talons also make for very convincing claw weapons in this form. Now when it comes to her articulation, she's got no waist joint, but other than that, she's actually a bit more posable than most 90s action figures. She's got a decent ball joint at the neck, good rotation in the arms and legs. Though, with that said, with how back heavy she is, you are definitely going to be using her wings to hold her up pretty damn often. If you can get her for a decent price, I really do recommend picking her up. Not just because she's a pretty decent vintage toy, but if you'd really quite like to have the first Transformer toy designed to be a girl in your collection, well, I know she makes my collection richer. Now on to her modern day counterpart. In Beast mode, Airazor comes off as a very well sculpted peregrine falcon. The plumage and brown hues to her wings really does look great, and the head sculpt feels very expressive despite the adherence to real-world bird face. It feels the way I remember Beast Wars being, as opposed to how it actually looked in the show. Now, this one is actually surprisingly posable for a bird toy. Similar to Shadow Panther being the most posable cat I've ever played with, this may possibly be the most posable bird I've ever played with. Fantastic play with the wing spread, an opening beak, and very manipulatable legs. It's great, just the best bird it could be. Now, surprisingly, the transformation is even easier and simpler than the Transmetal. For the most part, anyway. Once you have her in robot mode, we've just got a stunning looking bot, with a decently cartoon accurate robot mode head to boot. The rest of the body with its plumage and more obvious bird head in the chest do make it feel just a tad better than the original though. I love the wrist rockets and wingspan, and she just feels so vibrant and full of life. That said, I really can't say I'm the hugest fan of the show accurate head. It could use a bit of an update to be a little more expressive and emotive. Now, when it comes to Airazor's posability, she's got a fantastic waist joint, really wonderful legs with knees, and both the knees and legs give you a freedom of motion that a lot of action figures don't get. And that combined with the arms and the ball-jointed head just makes her an absolute joy to toy around with. The prior mentioned joints along with the wing posability carrying over makes her feel fantastic in general. You can just get her into so many poses. Here's a couple. When it comes to recommending this one, I'd say either pick her or the Rise of the Beast Airazor, which I've been told shares much of the same engineering. You can't really go wrong with adding these guys to your collection. So in conclusion though, I guess the point of the video was, we need more birds in our life, and Hasbro needs to do better with tigers. Like, look at him. It's depressing. But that'll be it. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Tiv out, your all-star.